Hi, everyone. I'm Amy.
And hello, I'm Audrea.
And this is the right crowd. So grab a cup of coffee,
Or a cup of tea.
maybe a little something on the rocks, and let's get started.
We are talking about a book. Welcome to the Right Crowd's Writing Crap Book Club chat. So today we are talking about From Zero to Four Figures by Paul Austin Ardoin. And I am not sure. I apologize, Paul, if I am mispronouncing your name, even though I met you. This is one of the books that we got when we went to 20 books to 50K. I think it was a year ago.
Which is now called Author Nation.
Yes, they had a little transition. But when we were there, Paul was there and he gave us a book. I got a signature too.
Yay.
We even have a photo with Paul. I believe we had a photo with this.
Oh, I think we do. Oh, we'll have to use that. We'll
have to put that up. So thank you, Paul, for this great book. Who's this book for? I think this book is for any author, especially new author, who has either not yet written their book or has written their first book and doesn't know what to do with it. Or maybe you've written a handful of books and you're not making money and you would like some tips. That's the market for Paul's book. I asked him about this book and I said, that's a great title. This is a great book. We would maybe like to read this and maybe do a review if we like it. And he said he wrote this book because whenever he went to conferences or talked to other authors, they would ask him what he did to make money. And he told them the same thing every time. He even wrote a little outline for himself and he told them the same thing he did. And finally he said, you know what? I'm just going to write a book, put it in the book. And then when they ask me, hey, how do you make money? How'd you make your first four figures, etc.? He'd say, there's a book. And here's the book that I wrote. Tells you exactly what I did. And he tells you exactly what he did right. For him, we're always saying your mileage may vary. For him and what he did wrong, which thank you, Paul, for that transparency. So let's talk about From Zero to Four Figures by Paul Austin Ardoin.
And I was so impressed that you know how to say his last name. So
I'm about to say, Paul,
really hope that title.
Paul, if you want to drop into our messages on YouTube and give us a phonetic pronunciation.
Correct us if we're wrong.
Sorry. Okay. So this book, as I said, who should read this book? He tells you that in the beginning. If you're not having success, if you're not making at least $1,000 a month with your writing, here's some ways that you could do that. Or if you're brand new to your writing career. And my first highlight on the book is on page. Oh, it's in the intro, the preface. So there are no book number. It's no book number. But it's under the topic, what can you expect from this strategy? So he basically is outlining a strategy. I'm sorry, I just realized I've been talking really fast. I'm sorry, peeps. This book, as Paul says, this book will not tell you how to make $1,000 a month from a single work of fiction. You got one book. This is not the book for you to make $1,000 a month from one book. He outlines a strategy and it includes a series or multiple books.
Yes, because he talks about having, not a backlog. What's it called when you have a catalog of books?
I thought it was a backlog or a series.
Oh, is it backlog?
A backlog. Yeah.
Yeah. He talks about having
a backlist.
Thank you. But he talks about having a backlist. So, yeah.
Okay. And being fully transparent, he also says he has made a lot of mistakes and he says he's sharing those mistakes with you. So, and I really do appreciate it when authors or instructors tell you, like, this is what worked for me. I did this and it ended in flames and tears.
Yes.
For your information. I appreciate that because we're all human and none of us are perfect or have that one right way to do things. So it's good to have that shared. Okay. So we are, as you know, we don't go word by word or chapter by chapter through these books. This is Writer Crap Book Club chat. And we just talk about things that stood out for us. We recommend you buy the book so you get the details, the outlines, the strategies, the math that he has in the book and so forth. All right. So chapter 1, it's a little bit of an introduction and he talks about that pesky 6-year-old and how he wanted to write since he was a child. which is similar to many of us. Did you have anything in chapter 1 that you wanted to go over?
No.
All right. So he refers to himself in the book as that his inner 6-year-old, since that's when he said he wanted to start writing. In chapter 2, he talks about his reason for why he chose to self-publish. And I think if you guys are on the fence, it's a good chapter to read, and it gives you some ideas. There are so many other resources where they go over and do a comparison, pros and cons on publishing trad. And when I say publishing trad, I mean having a publisher, a big 5 or whatever it's down to now, big 3, publish your book the old-fashioned way, or going indie. And what that means, you publish your book yourself. You write it, you get it edited, and proofread, and then
Edited.
and then you publish it yourself on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and Apple and all the other platforms out there. And so that's what he does. This is for if you are thinking, considering indie, that is what the model that he is talking about. Okay, so that's a little bit about what you'll find in chapter 2. I like that he sets his expectations, because it sets the expectations of the readers in this book. He says, the title of it is getting to your first 4 figures. So this, for those of you who want to be 6-figure, 7-figure authors, if you've taken enough classes or been to enough conferences, you probably are beyond this. But for beginners, this is a good, solid model that you can follow. And he sets those expectations early on in the book. Okay, and then what he gives you, I'm going to go back to the table of contents. What he gives you in the book, going to the next, I'm doing all the talking. What did you have, Amy?
Finish the thought. Yes, you're
Well, viewers. Okay, so he goes over in the book about knowing what reader expectations are and how important that is. And we have talked about that on this channel many times when we talked about other books and how readers of certain genres have certain expectations. Your book doesn't have to be the same as everybody else's, but for example, in a romance, if your book is a romance, labeled a romance, it should have a happily ever after or happily for now. If you don't do that, then don't call it a romance, because you are not going to be happy with your results. People will send you very nasty letters and reviews.
The other thing I want to point out about expectations is it's also about what your readers have come to expect of your writing as well.
That's very true.
It's not just about the genre. It's also about the way you write, how you write, what you do with your work. You want to make sure that you keep up with that, because there are some authors that I read that books aren't really that good, in all honesty, but the way that they write it and present it, I enjoy. If they change that, I don't know that I would read them, because I'm reading them for them. I'm not reading them necessarily for their books.
Again, yeah, you're reading for the
And I'm sure you have an author or two that you're the same way, where you're like, this actually isn't really good, but I enjoyed how they did this, and I'm just going to keep reading.
Yes, you enjoy their voice or their sense of humor,
Yes.
or the lyricism of their writing or something like that. Yeah, exactly. I have many books, or not many. I don't have very many. I want to give you an example of a genre that I just started. And I started the genre as a reader, not as a writer. I started reading, I'm going to say, something called women's fiction. You all familiar with that? I picked up a book by an author that I met, and she writes women's fiction, and she's very successful with it. And I thought, well, if I'm going to read a good example of women's fiction, I'm going to pick up one of her books and read it. I don't know how many chapters in the book, and it was like I woke up. It's like, what happened? What has happened? Where are we and why? What is going on? Nothing has happened in this book. What is happening? That is some types of women's fiction. It's about the emotional growth of the character and things going on in their life. And it's like a day-to-day exploration of a woman's journey. And I had to stop reading that book because I did not understand what was happening. No, but this is coming from someone who reads murder mysteries, and I do read romance. Like, there's no romance. There's no good-looking guy or, burly troll or body drop. There was nothing. It was, like, I am not halfway, a third of the way through this book, and nothing has really happened. And so I had to sit back or go back and read what exactly women's fiction is. And now that once I knew, I did choose to go back to that book. Like, this is something I could just pick up, and
I
doesn't matter where I
that
am.
is that is a genre I do not read.
So
I
that's new to me.
can't. Just like we said in a video before, a couple videos back, I don't read romance, but I love a good romantic comedy movie. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but I'll watch a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Actually, the book I just finished is sci-fi. I wrote it for my husband and he loves it, so I think I did okay. But yeah, that is not a genre but it goes to expectation. Like,
Yeah.
she's right into the expectation of someone who reads, which is why I don't read it, because I know what the expectation is of that genre and I'm not interested.
Exactly. And she's a 6-figure author, at least. She might be 7-figure. So her
So
book,
there are plenty of people.
yeah,
That
those
is right up
books,
her alley.
yeah, when those books come out, she is a one-click buy for many people. And so know your genre and the expectations. And so he talks a little bit about that, and I lost my place in the book. But he does talk about categorizing your books in the genre. I'm going to go back a little bit, and targeting the right audience. That is key to starting to make money with your writing, is to know what you're writing and know what those readers expect and target those readers. So if you don't target
In
women,
a good way. We're not talking about stalking.
of course. I'm done. But we will talk about stalking on another episode coming up.
We'll give you tips and tricks on how not to get caught.
Like and subscribe. Seriously, Amy.
I don't know where my brain is today, but I'm glad I don't have to go to work tonight, because I think tonight would be my brain's broken.
Wow. Okay. All right. Where am I? Okay. So then in here, that was the power of. I'm on page 41, by the way. Oh, where I was.
Well, hold up. I want to go back to page 21. Because there's one thing that I did want to say. He talks about in this section of the chapter, he talks about knowing your goals. And he says, be clear what your goal is and make sure you're pursuing those efforts, which will get you closer to your stated goals. Everything else is a distraction.
That's good.
Make sure your actions line up with the direction you want to go. Basically. Okay, you can move on. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's good. I was zooming right along. So it's really good. He has another quote in here, close to where you had that. I have a bunch of stuff highlighted. I just zoomed by it. From Steve Jobs. If you read.
Oh, yes. Yes. I was going to say this one. So, yeah,
okay.
I agree. Keep going.
If you really look closely, most overnight successes took a long time. And I love it when people go up to get an Oscar and they're like, you're like an overnight success. And they're like, if you don't count the 20 years I was pounding the pavement and waitressing trying to get acting jobs, sure.
Do you know I tried to watch Sandra Bullock's very first movie and I couldn't do it.
Oh, I love Sandra Bullock.
Same thing with Keanu Reeves. Could not watch their first movies. Oh, so bad.
Which one was
so bad?
Sandra Bullock's?
I don't remember, and I don't want to put that on them. But what I will say is that one of Sandra Bullock's first movies that I really like, that is still not where she is now, is called The Net. And you could tell that she was starting out, but it still wasn't her first movie. Her first movie's not where they are today.
Enough said. Yeah. People grow.
But it's the same. It's the same thing with books, right? Your first one's not. I've even heard that from multiple people. I don't know that I will do this, but I've heard from multiple people that your first couple of books should be under a name that you don't plan on making your author name, like a practice pen name. So that when you get it ready and it's like really good and now you're ready to get started, then you can change to your real name that you really want your books to be under so that the two don't like people aren't turned off when they get really good from
Oh,
your first.
interesting.
I've
I've
heard that.
never heard that stuff that well you got advice. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
That's Abigail Salamander.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So he gives an example, as I said in the beginning, of one of the books he put out that he wanted to write and about let me go back. It was called I Made Murder of Substance All About Me. And that's like it was like the book of his heart. This is the book he wanted to write. He made it all about him and he used titles that were related to music that he loved, that there was a
Yes.
super niche music that I had never even heard of when I read the book. So
I had no clue what he was talking
if
about.
I
I was
had
like,
seen if I had seen the book in the bookstore or on Amazon and I'd seen that title, I would not have had any frame of reference whatsoever that it was related to music. So he talks in depth about that example of where because he made the book all about him, not about what readers wanted and not about where he'd had success previously. The book tanked. Still the book of his heart, but it did not make money or get the good reviews that he was hoping for.
in that section right there where you're talking about that, he says, I was making a book about myself. It belongs to the audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I do-
hard. Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to go back a couple of pages just because he points out that when you start getting, like when you send your book out to get feedback to find out if it's hitting the mark, your beta readers or whatever, just because someone doesn't like it and they have a comment on it, it doesn't necessarily mean that's actually a problem. It's a problem when more than two people bring up the same thing. Then you might want to look at it and see if it's something you need to fix. Because there are times where Audrey and I will read the same book and I'm like, nope. She's like, oh, but I love it. Right. Or, okay, this is more apropos for today. Roadhouse just came out they've revamped it. Okay. So Randy watched it the other night. I fell asleep to him laughing in the living room watching Roadhouse. Okay. The next day, I'm on Facebook and I have someone on my Facebook who was basically like, it was horrible. Don't let people remake movies. Y'all need to leave the stuff alone. And Conor McGregor should never be allowed to act in anything else. Okay. That was the first person. Randy, I told Randy this review because he was telling me how much he enjoyed it. He goes, what is he talking about? That was great. He goes, it was awesome. Connor was fabulous. Like, you have same movie, both men, same age range, two completely different viewpoints on the movie.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to round it out. I just watched.
So you watched it?
Okay. House with Jake. It's the newest one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes.
I loved it. I laughed. I clapped. I have a friend in Chicago. Kind of not. She'll never watch it. But she has a saying. She and I used to go to movies together, and we usually went to art house movies or independent films because it's nudie. But anyway, also she would not go to Blockbusters. I had to go to this by myself. But if she lost a bet with me and she had to go to a movie that I picked that I wanted to see and it was not one of the art house or
nudie ones,
yeah, she'd be laughing her butt off in this movie and clapping, just obviously having a great time. And we'd come out and I go, well, I told you it was going to be good. What did you think? And she'd go, it was good. That was okay for what it was.
For what it was.
What it was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You were just entertained for 2.5 hours. Tears coming down your face. You're laughing so hard and it was good for what it was.
It was, exactly. That's the way people feel about the difference between genre fiction and literary fiction. They go, oh, well, for what? It's a romance. So, it can only be so. Yeah. Even though I loved it, I laughed, I cried, I was transformed and transfixed throughout the book. But for what it was. Anyway, I say that to say my review is that I did really like Roadhouse. I enjoyed it, and my husband enjoyed it as well. And I told a friend about it, and she's like, I don't know. But I made fun of some of the
Well, see, and I wasn't interested in watching it at all. Like, not at all. I have no whatever. I don't care. That's why he watched it without me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the point though, is that different people are gonna have different reviews. So like now I'm really thinking it's probably good because you liked it and your honey liked it and my honey liked it. The other guy didn't like it, but I might like it.
Well, I mean, I feel that way about some people when they remake some things, like Willy Wonka. The first one with Gene Wilder was perfect. It was, it was awesome. Why bother remaking something that's so good that is, it's not like it's deteriorating or something. If you're one of those people who does not believe that any of the good movies should be remade, then you probably will not like The Roadhouse. However, if you, if you want to give it a chance, you will probably be entertained. For example, the Willy Wonkas, which I thought, you don't need to make another Willy Wonka, but I went to go see, what was his name? Can't remember. It was Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka.
Mhm.
It was different, but good.
It was entertaining.
It was very entertaining. And I haven't seen the next one, but I plan to see it. And it's supposed to be. Anyway, we dive.
Wait, I have one more. And not that this is what this video is about, but it's becoming what this video is about. I saw an ad that I am completely 100% against.
Oh.
I will not be watching this.
What?
Never, ever will I ever. They are doing a remake of The Golden Girls.
I'm on the fence about that one. I love The Golden Girls. I still watch The Golden Girls. The Golden Girls stands up today. It is still fabulous, entertaining. But
I recently read that Betty White,
Mhm.
most of her monologues, she literally made it up on the fly. And their reactions on TV are their real reactions to them trying not to lose it because she's so funny. And they want to remake that? Good luck. Go ahead. Go for it.
I'm not going to touch that. I'm just going to move back on to the.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the book. Back here. Here we go.
All right. So that is a lot of part one. There's more stuff in part one. Let me see. I highlighted creating other formats. That is one of the ways to make more money in your book. And
large print.
Large print. Yeah, that's good. I have an author friend who makes a ton of money with her books. And she is always saying, I'm not going to do it in an accent, a British accent or otherwise. She's always saying, you write the book, then you make it into this, you make it into that, you make it into this, and you make it into that. And that's one product that you are reselling and making more money in every other format you put them. Now, some of the formats cost extra money, like audiobooks. That costs money. That costs a lot extra money.
I am not free.
Neither. But all the other formats, the large print, the paperback, the physical, the hardback, etc., are worth exploring to make additional income from your book. There are some people who will not read on an e-reader. They will only read a physical book, and vice versa. They will only read on an e-book, and they will not ever pick up a physical book. So these are things you should know as you're starting your author business. Another thing he goes into, he talks about all of the beginning stuff, like doing the editing, proofreading, and when I say beginner, like this is stuff that you should know as you start writing your book and get to the end of the book, that these are things you need to do to create a finished product. If you're thinking of your book as a way to make a living, it becomes a product that is you have written for someone else, not for yourself. It's not art. I mean, it might be art. It might be the best book since Old Yeller. I don't even know if that was a book. That movie. Anyway, I don't know why. That's the one. Let's go back and say Hemingway, like, for whom the bell tolls or something like that. Atlas Shrugged. Oh, that's a good book. But if you have not done the work on the proofreading, the formatting, and all that stuff, you're not going to sell very many of them. And he has a quote on page 71. Harvard Business School professor Gerald Saltman believes that 95% of purchasing decisions are made by the subconscious mind, And what that is speaking to is that making sure your cover is on point with the genre and it looks good, not homemade. It's even if you made it yourself, you've made it look like no one could distinguish your book from any of the other six-figure bestsellers out there. And that if they thumb through your book physically or page through and the look inside, they're not seeing typo on the first page and the second. So anyway, now moving on. Anything else from you for part one? That was a lot in part one.
Nope.
He had split the book in two parts, at least two parts. There's a part three as well. Forgot. Effective marketing is where he goes into that in part two. So he talks about newsletter lists. You should have a newsletter list. Newsletters.
Oh, I was like, well, what was that?
And covers and
It's a dirty word to us, just so you know.
yeah, it is. Which is why anyway.
We're working on it. We're working on it, guys. Like and subscribe so you can find out when we finally get
Yes.
that done.
Because when we do finally get our newsletter up, then we'll be able to have giveaways again. Because we have just like chock-a-block full of books and swag, reader swag or writer swag that you guys can win in our newsletter list. We have to get that up. All right. So he talks about strategies for making money, one of which is to have your first book in series be free. He talks about the 99 cents model, and there are people say that the first book free doesn't work as well as it did in the early days of independent authoring or independent publishing. But it's again, your mileage may vary. Some authors are having lots of luck with it. If you have a big backlist, it's not going to hurt you. You're not losing a lot if you have a first book free. So it could be a good strategy for you when you put it alongside other strategies. All right. I like in chapter 15, which is page 143, he gives you all kinds of ideas for starting with no money. So for those of you who do not have the budget for expensive covers or professional proofreaders, I mean, there's some things you should spend money on, but he gives you strategies for how to get them low cost, or if you have no money, how to still put out a quality book for free or with no money. And then he also talks about interior book design, doing it yourself. There are ways you can do it yourself. You do not have to purchase formatting from another person, which can cost you up to $125 or more to have someone else format your book for ebooks or paperback. You can purchase software to do it yourself, or there are plenty of reputable applications out there or sites like Reedsy, where you can use their tool to format your book. You can I think Amazon even has. So that is what he talks about in the how to do it with no money. Did you have anything for marketing or how to do it with no money?
No, one thing he does say is that your best marketing is to write your next best book.
Yeah, that is good stuff. So as you can tell, zooming along in this book. Yes.
He also says, which is contradictory to what I just said, I got this is the prime example of how one thing works for one person and one thing works for another. He says that your entry point novel is a great launch pad for your next book. Whereas what I just said, someone else said was basically your entry point novel is probably not going to be that good. So use a different pen name. Yeah.
So I mean, do you? There's all kinds of strategies and formulas and models out there. All right. Well, as we start to wrap up this book, as we always do, we never go all the way through a book. We always suggest you buy it yourself. Some of the other things that I like about this book is he includes a glossary at the back. If you're one of those authors or would-be or writers who's been in classes and people are talking about things, well, I don't want to mess up my also bots. And for the longest time, I was hearing people talk about also bots, and I had no idea what they were talking about.
What's also bots?
It is when you're selling digitally and you're on Amazon and you're about to buy that book and you're considering buying your reader. Below that are books people also just are also.
I thought you were saying also, like OSO. And I was like, what is also?
Maybe I need to work on my pronunciation. Also bot. All okay. Autobot. ALSO. EOUT. Tune in to see if we're talking to each other on the next video. But as always, like and subscribe. But what Paul has done is put it all together for you in one book. How to start a great strategy from going from 0 to a 4-figure, which is a reasonable entry level or entry point for new authors. And he's done it in a great way. And he gives you math in here, like if you're doing this kind of strategy, this is what, and he gives you examples. This is how much I made on this book. And then here's the book that I made that tanked. Here's my failure. This is how much I lost because I put money on, because I thought it would be a success like my other one. And I put money on covers and all this stuff. And this is how much I lost on this book. And so I love that he gives you lessons learned that you can learn from and strategies for how to move forward or win. So that's all I have for From 0 to 4 Figures, Making $1,000 a Month Self-Publishing Fiction by Paul Austin Ardoin. Do you have anything else?
No, I think I used all my words.
Okay, well, we will go ahead and end it there. Thank you, everyone. Please like and subscribe and tune in for more. Bye.
Toodles.